Have you ever wondered why, in a nation founded on the idea that all men are created equal, racial inequality has been so persistent? The answer isn't just about individual prejudice. It's all about a political idea that was made to divide and conquer, the concept of whiteness. Let's dive into its history. It starts right at the beginning with the Naturalization Act of 1790. The first U.S. Congress limited citizenship to free white people. This wasn't an accident. It was the first moment America legally codified a racial hierarchy on a broken promise of many to come. The British Empire definitely made its mark as the original architects of the racial caste system. They often used racial hierarchy, religion, or ideas of civilization to justify their rule. The American founders took this a step further. The British needed a way to unite a diverse group of European immigrants and prevent them from allying with enslaved Africans or Native Americans to keep its capital flowing to Europe. Granting even the poorest European peasants the status of white created a powerful psychological bond. It sent a clear message: no matter how low your status, you are still superior to those outside this category. This is the great American paradox. A nation built on liberty for some, not all. So they hardened the racial caste system into law, the first act of the new American Congress, which was simultaneously built on the foundation of slavery and racial caste for others. What's the reason behind that? Nearly all men can stand adversity, but if you want to test a man's character, give him power. A famous quote by Abraham Lincoln. America had two chances to break this system and blew it. After the Revolution, the Founding Fathers, many of whom were slaveholders, chose to protect slavery in the Constitution. They preserved the economic and social power they derived from the racial hierarchy created by British rule. Then, after the Civil War, Reconstruction offered another chance. The 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments were passed, promising freedom, citizenship, and voting rights. But this promise was betrayed. The federal government eventually abandoned its protection of non-white Americans, leading to the Compromise of 1877. This ushered in a century of Jim Crow laws, segregation, and terror from groups like the Ku Klux Klan. The post-Reconstruction South simply re-established a racial caste system. Even if it wasn't the institution of slavery itself, so what about the civil rights movement of the 1960s? This is where the story gets even more complex. The Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act were monumental achievements that dismantled legal segregation. But some scholars argue that the caste system didn't end. It just adapted. By focusing on colorblindness and individual rights, the movement outlawed the most obvious forms of racism, but left the underlying structures of inequality intact. Racism went from being overt to covert. It became systemic. Think about housing policies like redlining, which created segregated neighborhoods and a massive wealth gap. Think about the war on drugs, which disproportionately targeted and incarcerated Black and brown communities. Racism became embedded in the policies and practices of our major institutions, from criminal justice to education and healthcare. The British Empire created the monster of racial ideology to manage its colonies. The American revolutionaries didn't destroy it. They took it and weaponized it, gave it a legal name, whiteness, and used it to justify exploitation and created a permanent underclass. At every critical moment in its history, America had the chance to dismantle this racial caste system. Instead, it chose to reform and re-legitimize it, and we do not argue left, right, or center. We argue the system as a whole is preserving its core function. Understanding this history is not about assigning blame. It's about recognizing the deep roots of the inequality we still face today. Thanks for watching. If this gave you a new perspective on race, hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into history and society.